guys, welcome back to Great Fire Podcast. I'm your host, TrayBate, a.k.a. TrayBate Knows Boxing.
And I am Willie Mack.
Guys, welcome to Season 3. All right? So, guys, we're going to get straight to it. We have a legend here, Holly Randall.
Where?
Straight up.
Where? We are in video, right? So people will get that joke.
Legendary.
Hello. How are you guys doing today?
Doing really good. How about you, Holly?
I'm good. You know, actually, I got to say, so like just full disclosure for people watching, I actually also do my podcast in the studio. And I got to say, I'm actually kind of liking this new position because this table totally cuts off my gut. So like, I know that in the video, like you will only see like my tits and my face, which is great. But like when I sit over where you are, then you get like the side view and it's like not nice. So Ernie, I think we might need to change it. I may just sit here from now on. It's like very skinny where I am.
You might have to make it happen. So let's talk a little bit about your podcast for people who don't know. Mm-hmm. It is called Holly Randall Unfiltered,
yes.
Right? So what happens on Holly Randall Unfiltered?
Unfiltered. It's actually, I was checking to see if you got the name right because someone actually... I had somebody who was interested in doing ads on my podcast, and they called it Holly Randall Untethered, which I thought was kind of hilarious. And I'm like, that means something totally fucking different.
A little bit too far. With
yeah,
that
that's
one.
like
that
Holly, like out of control. Like I don't know what that podcast sounds scary. But Holly Randall Unfiltered is basically, I mean, it started off really as just a way to kind of draw back the curtain on the adult industry. You know, I wanted to interview people in the adult industry and interview them not in like your typical like porno interview that you might see at the beginning of a gonzo scene. Like, hey baby, how big are your tits? How many times a day do you masturbate? I can swear, right? You're not like,
oh yeah, absolutely.
Okay,
You kidding me? This is Great Fire. We do whatever we
just
want.
checking. I didn't know if you know.
No, go ahead.
What your audience was. Anyway, so I really wanted to, you know, show these people as people because I've been in the industry for it'll be 20 years in September. How fucking crazy is that? 20 years. So, and I've worked with like almost everybody. So I know a lot of people and I know a lot of these models that, you know, people just see as like, you know, these porn stars and sex objects, which is fine. That's like, you know, their career, but they're also like, there's a whole other dimension to these people. They're smart. They're funny. Yeah. They've got like interesting stories. They've got inspirational stories. So there's so much more to people in the industry. And I just kind of wanted to like shatter the illusion of what people think people in the adult industry are like. And not even just porn stars, but also like directors and producers and
the people the people in the background.
People
most
who
people
are behind
don't know
the scenes.
About. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But lately I kind of have been seeing it as developing into more of this platform for like progressive talk, maybe on like sex positive issues,
for sure,
sex issues, cultural issues. So I just had a sex therapist on this week. I'm having a sex educator on in a couple of weeks. I've had best-selling authors on, and it's really great for me because not only does it give me an opportunity to get to know these people on a deeper level than I know with them, because I may spend like 10 hours, 12 hours a day on set, you know, with these like porn stars, but I don't really know them, you know? Absolutely. I mean, like they're in the makeup chair, I'm out there doing whatever I'm doing. So it's great to sit down and actually like have a conversation and be like, wow, you're more, so much more interesting than I knew. Yeah. So it's been really cool. It's been a great way for me to kind of flex my intellectual muscles where, you know, like my work, and my photography is a way for me to flex my artistic muscles. I feel like in a way the podcast is a way for me to flex my intellectual muscles and learn. I've learned so much. So it's been really cool.
Okay, that's perfect because it's going to kind of go into what I'm going to talk about right now as far as a psychological effect of pornography, positive or negative. Mm-hmm. Would you say that there is a negative effect or that there's a negative? There could be a negative effect on somebody psychologically based on watching porn. I
think it depends on where you're coming from. You know what I mean? Because I mean, different things mean different things to different people. I mean, if you're coming from a place where, you know, you've been raised with a lot of shame around sex and you have a lot of hang-ups about sexuality, you know, maybe porn is going to affect you the wrong way if you're looking at maybe the wrong kind of material, if you're approaching it in the wrong way. But, you know, for other people, it can be a really amazing, eye-opening, and educational experience. I mean, I can't tell you how many girls I've interviewed who've said that they've like learned about how much they've learned about themselves in the adult industry and in porn. I mean, Nicole Aniston's a great example. She had never masturbated before she had done porn. So like she really didn't know anything about like her body. She didn't know like what she liked. She wasn't a sexual person. She didn't know. And it was through porn that she was able to discover like who she was sexually. And it's great because, you know, for some people, it can be a really wonderful, safe place to experiment and learn about what you like and what you don't like, because you're, you know, for the most part, you should be in a safe environment, you know, surrounded by people, and you can call cut if it's too much, and you know, you can establish your boundaries in a way that feels healthy for you. So it just depends. I don't think that porn has to be psychologically destructive, but you know, again, it just, everybody's different. So it's Asa Akira actually said it perfectly on my podcast. She said, porn is the perfect job for a very small amount of people and the worst job for everybody else.
It's true.
So
That's definitely Speaking of on the job, what would you say is the most unusual experience that you've had doing what you do?
God, there's so many stories. I know people always want like some like crazy, like it's usually honestly like a problem like with the location or like the weather or something like that. I mean, I did have there was once you guys are obviously familiar with squirting, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Okay, so not every girl can squirt, not every girl knows how to squirt, not every girl there's something about like kind of allowing your body to release that you can squirt, because like a lot of girls hold it in because they're afraid like they're gonna pee. So anyways, I was shooting this couple together, and it was the girl was brand new to boy girl, and she was shooting with Marcus London, who likes to call himself like the squirt expert. He's like I can make any woman squirt. That's like his thing. I think he like has a series called like Squirt School or something like that. I don't know.
Wow.
So anyway, so he's like fingering her, and he made her squirt, right?
Yeah.
And she freaked out, and she ran into the bathroom and locked herself in the bathroom, was like crying in there. I'm like, are you okay? She's like, I just peed everywhere. I'm like, no, you didn't. You squirted. It's cool. It's hot. There's actually like movies based around this. This is actually like a thing like that you can put on your resume. Like I'm not joking. Like you know, you go, you look at your girl on an agent site, and it says like, you know, what she does, if she does double anal, squirting's a big thing. A lot of girls can't squirt. So like she's in the bathroom like so embarrassed, and I'm like, girl, you just like discovered that you have this talent that I could actually bring you all this money. You know what I mean? And it was so funny. She was so like not, and then eventually she became comfortable with it, and then she started doing squirting stuff. But that was just kind of funny. I mean, there's an example of somebody who really didn't know their body and didn't understand what it was capable of sexually, and then when they had, you know, that experience, they were immediately shamed by it. But it turns that actually in porn, that's a positive thing. So it was interesting how it took something that she thought was negative and like flipped it, and it was like actually like, no, this is a good thing. So
quick question: do you squirt?
You know what? I don't. And we've tried. We have tried. I've had like boyfriends who have like put me in the bathtub, and they're like, and I'm just
force it out.
And it's the same thing for me. I feel like I'm going to pee. I don't like it. I don't like it. And I feel like I'm going to pee.
So is it pee?
You know what?
Is it
okay,
exactly?
so
a lot of people
a
wanna know
lot
that.
of times it is, and if you want to like really look like, so squirting should come from like the vagina. It shouldn't come from the pee hole. There's two holes in a woman's vagina.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So there's like the pee hole, which is tiny, which you can't see, and then there's obviously the vagina. So squirting should come out of the vagina, not out of the pee hole. And if you look closely, you can.
So it's fluids.
Yeah, I never knew that.
And a lot of the squirting that you see in porn is just too much.
It's exaggerated.
It's like a fucking fountain.
It's a flow.
And it
Like
keeps going. And you're just like,
You gotta do this gargling.
that's impossible. I shot
Mouthwash.
this one girl, Marika Hayes, this Japanese porn star who's famous for squirting. That's like her thing. And I wasn't aware of that. There's nothing worse than a surprise squirter. Like that's the worst, because if you're shooting in like a house on like a couch that's porous, that's not like easy to clean, like leather or something. If it's like, I've had this happen, like a velvet couch, and the girl just squirted everywhere, and I was like, no, like slow motion, like, because then she just fucked the fucking couch up, and now I got to go tell the owner that this girl just squirted, i.e. pissed all over his couch, and I like got to pay to clean it up. Like, so there's nothing worse than a surprise squirter. But Where the fuck was I going with that?
I'm learning everything.
Oh, Marika Hayes.
Yeah,
That's
Marika
what it was.
Hayes, yeah.
Marika Hayes. So anyhow, and I noticed that she kept like going, she wanted a douche and she kept going to the bathroom like with like bottles of water and this douche. I'm like, what is she doing? So at the end of the masturbation scene, she squirts, but like it was a fucking river.
Yeah.
Like it was I've never seen so much water come out of somebody in my fucking life.
Yeah.
I think she was pumping like water up her vagina.
Yeah.
And then like somehow was able to hold it into a point.
That's not
and
a
then
smart
just,
thing
like,
to do, right? It could-
No, I don't know how
Yeah.
she did that. Like that's actually like I can't really figure it out how that worked, but
Held a
I
bladder
had
for a little
to
bit.
I had to get a mop afterwards.
Yeah.
Like literally paper towels weren't going to clean it up.
And it's crazy because I always wanted to know how so much just
Yeah, it's not.
like is that real or is that like
If
water's
it's
being
if
pumped
it's
in?
if it's that much, it's piss.
I'm like, man,
There's
good
not that
gallon.
much squirt in a girl. If it's like just keeps going, it's piss.
Then that's
I thought I should have busted faucet.
well.
Because female ejaculation does exist, but it's not. It's not.
It's not like that.
Yeah, it's not
Not
that
at all.
prolific.
So something very interesting happened on your podcast. You had your parents on your podcast.
Yes.
What was that like? Tell me about that experience.
You know what? It was really great. I mean, I've always obviously had a very open relationship with my parents.
Yeah, absolutely.
They're free-spirited, hippie-type people, and, you know, we talk about everything.
Yeah.
So there's nothing really that surprises me anymore about my parents' history and what they've done. And I know their story, but...
So you found out things that you never.
Yeah,
heard
I
of?
have.
Oh, that's-
I did find out, like, because there's always like something more. Like my parents had such a rich, interesting, bizarre life.
Yeah.
That like every time they tell their story, there's always some little detail that I hadn't heard before that comes out, which is always like really interesting. Like I only had just discovered. So my mom, when she was back at the Playboy Mansion, back in the 70s, and for people who don't know, my mother is Suze Randall, who's an erotic photographer, very famous in the 70s, 80s, and 90s. And she was the first female staff photographer at Playboy. Not the first female photographer at Playboy, but the first female on staff at Playboy as a photographer. So she used to party at the Playboy Mansion back in the 70s. You know, and that's like back when like A-list celebs went.
Yeah, when it was,
like a
poppin'.
big fucking deal.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
not when it was just like Pauly Shore there, you know? like,
No poly.
the like D-list celebrities. So when my mom was there, you know, my parents were swingers, so they used to like, you know, they used to have orgies and they would, you know, sleep with other people.
Yeah.
And my mom banged Bill Cosby, which I only just learned like 2 years ago, which was such a shock to me.
That
And
is
he did
amazing.
not. It was willing. She was awake. I gotta literally.
I
It's
was
so
waiting
sad.
for
I
it.
gotta say that. 'Cause
I was
no,
waiting for it.
instantly-
I swear I was about to ask. Like,
was waiting for it.
what happened? Did,
People-
did he put it in the Jello pudding?
She said, you know what she said though? She said that he sat down next to her and he like instantly shoved his hand down her pants, like without introduction. And so, and my mom, as she said, she's like, well, I'm always up for a challenge. So like when he did that, she just kind of turned the tables on him. She's like, okay, fine, let's go for it, you know? But yeah, she said it was bizarre.
I could just imagine his face was like, oh, you know,
Yeah.
So I got that
She
big
said
one eye.
he wasn't very good. She said it
Oh.
wasn't memorable.
that's some exclusive stuff right
Too
here
much
on
Jell-O
Little
in
Gray
it.
Fire.
Yeah.
Too much gel in this pudding.
Not like her favorite Jim Brown. He was her favorite.
So let's talk about dating a little bit. Are you dating right now?
I am.
Okay, awesome.
am.
Do you believe in marriage?
I do. I've been married before. That didn't work out. Actually, it's funny because Box and Burn was not responsible for my divorce, but helped move me along in that direction. So I started going to Box and Burn. Actually, my ex-husband started going to Box and Burn before me.
Really?
He discovered it first.
Okay.
And so then I started going with him. And then I became hooked, and he became lazy.
Yeah.
And he stopped going. And I continued to go, and
Yeah.
I really loved it. And I hated exercise before I came to Box and
Yeah, we
Burn.
talked about that, too.
Fucking
Yeah.
hated it. Like, just despised it.
Yeah.
So I finally found something that I enjoyed, and I really liked the people there. And so I kept going. And, you know, when I was with my husband, I was unhappy. I was in a marriage that wasn't working out. I felt trapped. I buried myself in work. I, put on weight. I felt old. I felt ugly. And I just felt totally undesirable. And it's so funny now because I'll be 40 in September. But at the time I was 34. 33.
It's about
like
6 years ago.
Like 34. And I was like sure that like I was too old to date. Like if I divorced my husband, that no man would ever want me. I was too old in this city, you know, in LA where everyone's like 20 and a model. No, that's what I told myself.
Oh, okay.
That's what I told myself. And I was like, nobody will ever want me.
Yeah.
Like this is the best I'm going to get. And I started to go to boxing and I started to lose weight and I started to like gain more confidence. And
started getting hit on a lot more.
A little bit.
Yeah.
And then I started to feel like more powerful. And I was like, you know what? Like, I'm not too old. I'm not too ugly. I'm not fat. Like, I'm not undesirable.
Yeah.
And I deserve better. Like, I don't need to stay in this marriage where I'm like incredibly unhappy. Like, what am I doing with my life?
True.
And so I ended it. And, but yeah, that was, I mean, and honestly, like, Box and Burn was really helped me, like, because exercise, I've found now that especially that it's something that I do regularly. It's so important.
No, it is.
Mentally
Big
for
time.
you.
Mentally.
Like the
More mentally than
endorphins.
physically.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I need it. I mean, like, I'm not in like the best shape ever. Like, I would not put a fucking bikini on right now. But so like for me, like it's not even like, I mean, look, obviously like I'm a fucking girl who lives in LA. I'd love to be 90 pounds. But I don't really go to boxing anymore or exercise anymore because like I have to lose 20 pounds. It's more like because I can't go insane.
Yeah.
It's like I just need to keep my head straight.
Yeah.
If I don't go, like I start to go kind of cuckoo.
That's true.
Remember I was telling you that? Like, I work out specifically just to get the stress out of my system. It's like
Yeah,
that
yeah.
toxin inside that you got to
It's like
stream out
certain
your pores,
fluids
man.
and you
Yes.
just get it all out.
It's
And once
really
the sweat comes
chemicals,
out,
man.
like I always tell people after workout, just consider that. If you don't want to come and work out, think about how you're going to feel afterwards.
Yes.
And it's
like
the best feeling ever.
It's like
It really,
the most
really is.
incredible natural high.
Yeah.
Though I have to admit, when I first started going to Box and Burn, it was so fucking hard that when I would come home, I would like, there were a lot of times that I'd come back from like a 9 a.m. Boxing Burn class, take a shower, and fucking go to sleep for like an hour and then get up at like 1.
Yeah.
Because it killed me. It was so difficult. I didn't realize until I went to Box and Burn that you had to like work out until you felt like you were going to vomit in order to get
pretty much,
results.
yeah.
Like I didn't
most
know
part,
that.
Once you pass that barrier and then...
Yes, and then once you pass that
get
barrier,
used to
it's
it,
great.
you kinda
But it's
condition.
so
Yeah,
hard to
yeah.
get there. And yeah, because I used to like, go on the treadmill for 20 minutes and read like People magazine. And I'm like, why am I still fat? You know what I mean? Like barely breaking a sweat. And then I started going to Box and Burn and I like literally thought I was going to vomit.
Wait,
And
are you vegan? You're not a vegan, right?
Okay, I don't want to say that I'm vegan. I'd like to say that I embrace a more plant-based diet. I've definitely like cut way down on eating meat and cheese. I pretty much only eat like fish and I avoid dairy for the most part.
Yeah,
but I'm
big
not
time.
like 100% like for Easter, I think my mom made some special chicken. I had some chicken. Like so sometimes. But I try to eat more plant-based. Yeah.
Okay. Have you dated a younger guy before, or a guy that was younger than you?
Well, my boyfriend right now is younger than me.
Oh.
And the one before was too.
It's funny, we talk about that a lot, how we're into, like for me, I'm attracted to older women. Like I've always been. And we had a show about that as well.
Really?
And speaking of, I have a confession.
Which confession,
I
bro?
have a confession. I have a crush on you.
Really?
Yes.
Really?
I do. Yes. I said it.
Oh wow! I'm like I'm so surprised. Because I'm like the fucking old lady at Box and Burn. I seriously,
Not at all,
I
not
go
at
there
all.
and it's like all like 20-year-old models. Like every girl, I
told
won't
him,
lie.
it's- yeah.
I want to go up to like girls after class and be like, hey, you want to model for Playboy? Like I
Believe it or
literally,
not, you wouldn't believe how many people would actually.
I know, but
they'll
then
be
I
like,
feel
hell
like
yeah.
I'm going to be that creepy fucking chick at Box and Burn who's always trying to get everyone
recruiting
naked.
all of So let's talk a little bit about fetishes.
Okay.
What is your fetish? What is that thing that turns you on?
I like to be dominated. Like big time. I'm super submissive in bed. So I like to be tied up. I like to be spanked. I love to be flogged. I haven't been flogged in a long time. I don't like caning. That's not fun. I was in a S&M relationship for a year, like years ago, with like a professional dom. So I learned we did some interesting things.
Like
Yeah.
what? Like what?
Well, caning. That was interesting.
Caning. What is that?
So a cane,
with the,
a cane,
okay.
and
yeah.
like hitting you with a cane, and it's awful. It's so fucking painful, and it left like huge red welts on me. And I was like, I think I even bled a little bit.
So do you get an orgasm from that, or is
you don't get? I don't get an orgasm from the pain, but there's something very stimulating about pain, and then like. Followed by like a soft touch or sensuality. So like when you mix like pain and pleasure, there's something very intoxicating about that. But obviously people have different levels of pain. And
True.
The caning was way too much for me. I didn't like that at all. But flogging is nice, especially if it's a nice like soft leather. That's not really painful at all. It's just more like the dominant action.
So what's your favorite? As a matter of fact, let's get into this. Do you have a favorite position?
Yeah. And it's super boring. I love missionary because I don't
intimacy,
have to do any of the work, and the intimacy, and like looking in his eyes, and I like to like feel like, because like I said, like I like to be dominated. I like to like feel his body on me. I'm like, my boyfriend's like a big dude. Like he's got huge shoulders and he's like 6 foot, and so like I just love like feeling kind of smothered. Yeah.
That's kinky.
So, Will,
that's funny. I love how like I said I was into being bondage and being tied up and flogged, and then favorite sex position is missionary, and you think that's kinky. You think missionary is kinky. But being flogged and caned is nothing.
No, I mean like the smother and
That's good. He has a crazy sex life.
I got that Jello pudding. I don't sure.
So how do you feel about noises? If you have a guy that's moaning, or I guess, do you prefer a guy that's vocal or?
Oh yes, yes. I much prefer that. I like a guy who talks dirty. Yeah, I love to hear the guy. It's funny because actually in porn, it's usually marketed. Well, not usually, pretty much 99% of the time marketed towards men, right?
Yeah.
And the guys don't want to hear the guys because
true.
you want to imagine that you're the guy. You want to hear the girl. Well, for me, that's the opposite. I don't want to hear the girl. I want to hear the guy. So, like, it's so hard for me to find porn where, like, the guy talks a lot. Like, it almost never happens. So, but yeah, I'm super into that.
So let's say, I guess, earlier in life, did you have a time dating due to the fact that you were in the profession that you were in?
Did I? I'm sorry. Say that.
Like, did it? Like, I guess your profession, did it cause issues with dating?
No,
before?
man, I'm a girl. Every guy who dates me is stoked on my job. Right. Like I've never
That's what I was about
had.
to say. I was going to be like, I don't.
Now, when you flip it, it's really difficult. I have a lot of guy friends who work in the industry, and like women are not cool with it. So I'm very lucky, and it's totally a double standard. But like for me, it's definitely not a problem. It's ironic though. The guys that I usually end up dating are actually like not that into porn and don't like really care about like my boyfriend now like doesn't really care about what I do for a living. Like he cares about it in the sense that like he wants me to be happy and he wants me to enjoy my career and feel fulfilled and be successful, but he doesn't actually care that I do porn. Like he doesn't want to come to set. He doesn't want to see my work. Like he just doesn't care.
Yeah.
Which I like because I don't want somebody who's with me because they think that like they're going to have threesomes with like hot porn chicks all the time or something like that. You know what I mean?
Wrong idea. Huh?
Yeah, exactly.
So speaking of threesomes, have you ever been intimate with a woman?
Yes. So I've had 2 threesomes. So I've only been intimate with a woman when I was with another guy.
Yeah.
So the first one was in Amsterdam when I was 17. My boyfriend and I went after high school. Our graduation present was we went to Europe together, and we went to the red light district and we got a hooker. And it was towards the end of the trip.
Everybody's like,
it was towards the end of the trip, so we couldn't afford like the super hot ones. So we got this like slightly chunky older woman.
The coupon specials. Oh,
pretty
boy.
much, pretty fucking much. And she was not into me at all. And so I pretty much we just kind of gave up, and I just watched her fuck my boyfriend, which was kind of cool in its own way.
I always hear that the
fun.
first experience is kind of like, then the second experience is like, all right. So
yeah.
How was the second experience?
Well, the second one was better. It started off between me and Jess. So it was a party at my house. It was Halloween, and this is a long time ago. and I was super drunk, and she was dressed as Rainbow Bright, who was like my idol when I was a kid. So it was like this kind of weird, like kinky, sexual, like childhood fetish thing that I like ended up like fucking Rainbow Bright on Halloween. But yeah, it was actually really fun. Like we started off like dancing, and then we were making out. It was this whole like long evening. Then we went and we took a shower together. Like it was this whole thing. I know. And then she like then she brought her boyfriend in, which I was not into because I was not into him. He was like this scrawny little kid. But then like I felt bad. She's like, "Here, will you blow my boyfriend?" I'm like, "Fine." Fine. What am I going to say no? It's like so awkward. I was like, okay.
Yeah.
But I was not excited about him coming into the mix. So, but yeah, that was the only 2 times. I'm honestly like very heterosexual. I'm not into women at all. So
okay, so what was I thinking of? So in today's world, for the most part, a lot of women, or a few women, some prefer anal sex over vaginal sex. Is that something that, not something that you prefer, but do you think that it's in, like, that anal sex is a new thing? Is that what it is?
Yeah, I think that people are experimenting with it more. I think now, that porn's all over the internet and people are seeing like different sex acts, and it's kind of pushing the envelope for people at home too. I think people are experimenting with different stuff. So yeah, I've seen more interest in anal. I think people are talking about anal more. It's really a whole mind thing, and it's as much your partner as it is yourself.
True.
You really got to be relaxed.
I think it's more based on the imagination. That's like eating ass. Do you like your ass to be ate?
I'm okay with it. I'm not like, I don't like
crazy about it.
I'm
like
not. I don't.
mandatory.
It's not like the most incredible thing in the world. But I mean, yeah, it's fine. I mean, I don't know. I'm very clean, but there's always that moment where you're like, shit.
Maybe.
Yeah, I know, right? Right. I actually don't mind eating guys' ass though, but I only like doing it like if it's like in a dominant way. Like if you ask me to, like I won't, but if you make me do it, I'm totally down.
Make you do it. So,
Get him,
so explain.
Yeah, pretty much.
I was about to ask, how would that go? But you already described just getting my ass. I guess
that's how it sounded to me.
Pretty much. Yeah, that would work.
That is freaking insane.
That would work.
So, who is your favorite? I guess who's the favorite guest that you've had on your show? I mean, who's your favorite guest that you've had on your show?
That's hard to say. I'm gonna go with the easy out, which is kind of true too. Would be my parents because I love my parents, and they're
was that
so
the most informative episode that you had for most?
I mean, I think it was probably. I don't know. I mean, obviously, I'm biased because they're my parents, but I think it was probably one of the more interesting ones because my parents have had such a crazy life, and so much history, and they lived in the golden age of porn, and they got stories about Hugh Hefner and Larry Flynt and Bob Guccione and all these famous people. So I think their stories the richest and most interesting. Also, too, because they're like. They're in their 70s now, so they've lived like a long life,
a great life. I mean, that's freaking.
So, I would say they were probably my favorite. But besides them, I mean, there's been so many great interviews. If you want like a really, really funny one, Mike Quasar is awesome. He's like this disgruntled porn director who like hates his job. He's really funny. He's really funny. Kate Quigley, she's a comedian. I had her on. She's hilarious. Ryan Keeley and Jelena Jensen together were really funny. I had Angela White on recently. She's really, really intelligent. Really interesting episode. Christopher Ryan, who wrote Sex at Dawn, best-selling book about why monogamy may not be natural to human beings.
That's
and actually, we evolved as more like polyamorous. So that's really interesting. That was a fascinating episode.
So if you guys have not seen it, Holly Randall Unfiltered. Make sure if you Google it, you're going to find it. It's as simple as that. If you know how to spell or read, you're going to find it. All right.
I'm going to look for it now.
So what's next for Holly Randall?
God, it's funny because I'm always like trying to start a bunch of projects at once, and I get overwhelmed, and I need to like pull myself back. So. I think probably I'm actually literally on the cusp of relaunching my website. So my website, hollyrandall.com, has been run by another company for the last 5 years, and I finally took it back myself, and I'm going to run it completely independently, 100% myself. Like I'm kind of done with contracts. So I'm going to be, I was hoping to launch that last night, but with billers, blah, blah, blah. So hopefully tomorrow that will relaunch. So I'm hoping that I'll be able to inject some more time and money into my website and be able to create more content myself, because I've kind of not been able to put as much effort as I'd like into it, because it wasn't really like producing the revenue that it needed to, but then it was being run by a company that wasn't promoting it at all and just letting it sit there. So I'm hoping that I'll be able to like revamp it. So that's what I'm working on right now. And so like I said, hopefully this week. And then the next thing that I'm working on, so I have my next workshop. I teach photography, glamour nude workshops.
Yeah, I saw that. That's awesome.
So my next one is June 16th through the 18th here in Los Angeles. And so tickets just went on sale for that. And then I'm going to start working on an online workshop.
Awesome.
So online workshop classes for people who can't make it out here to attend them, for people who can't afford them. You know, they're not cheap.
Yeah.
So that's kind of my next big project, because, you know, the content production thing is great, but it's becoming more and more difficult because, you know, budgets are being cut. There's no money in porn. Nobody's paying for porn.
That's true.
All that kind of stuff. So I'm always looking for other avenues as to, like, you know, where I can further my career, and education is kind of one of those things that you can't really steal.
That's true.
And it's something that people are always interested in learning about photography. You know, guys always want to shoot hot, beautiful, naked women. And, you know, I have access to the top models, best makeup artists, and I'm able to provide a situation is where you can get like the most amazing, you know, pictures of your career. So that's been really promising. So I'm focusing a lot of my efforts on my workshops.
So is it possible for you to get us some models? Because we have a really amazing party coming up on Memorial Weekend. It's called Malibu. Ames going to be in Malibu at a very secluded location. I mean, all the way up in the hills, because we've been there before. We went there in March. But it's going to be nice. I mean, super duper nice. So that if you're available,
when is
they're
it?
available. May 27th. May 27th. So
May
it's on the
27th.
Sunday and it goes on to that Monday. So it's gonna be amazing.
Wow.
Extremely exclusive. So it was supposed to happen. When was it? In
the first time? Or
the first time. The second time.
March 25th.
Yeah, it was supposed to happen March 25th, but it was some rain issues and it got very, very difficult. So we moved it to Memorial Weekend.
Oh, cool.
So now it's gonna be nice.
Nice.
So we can make that happen. I'll let you know about that as it gets closer.
Yeah, let me know.
But you were on CNN recently.
That was a surprise.
Exclusive. So how did you find out about that? Like, who was the first person to show you that?
So I was on CNN because I interviewed Stormy Daniels for my podcast. And, you know, I've known Stormy for a very long time. We were some of the first people to shoot her when she first got in the industry about 10 years ago. And my mom and her became good friends because they both ride horses. And my mom and Stormy had a contract with Club Magazine. We shot all of her covers. We shot all of her layouts. We have tons of Stormy content. Yeah. So I've known Stormy for a long time. And I was planning to have her on my podcast anyways. Yeah. Just because she's a really interesting woman. She's a director. She's really smart. She's savvy. She's very successful. And then this whole thing came out with the fucking president. So it was actually, honestly, kind of more timing than anything else.
We just saw it. Like, we were watching it here. We were like, that's so freaking sick.
Yeah, I was planning on having her on anyways. And then the whole thing with the president blew up. And then I was like, okay, well, maybe she won't want to come on now because she's probably super busy. And she's got like all these other, you know, like media interviews and stuff like that. And she won't want to come on my stupid little whittle podcast. And then actually, she was the one who suggested it. She was like, hey, like, when am I going to come on your podcast? I'm like,
listen,
now
that signs that she's real.
Yeah, she's great.
Definitely real for that one. Because, you know, you got some people who'll be a little bit bougie.
Yeah, I totally thought that.
I totally
thought that's what it was going to be. Yeah. But she was super, and it was the first interview after her Jimmy Fallon appearance. Yeah. So, anyways, so CNN picked up on that, and they lifted the video interview from my YouTube page. Yeah. Which is fine, but I just didn't know. And so I had a friend text me and sent me pictures. He's like, dude, you're on CNN. I'm like, what are you talking about? And it was my podcast with Stormy, and they were just talking about, you know, how it was before she did the Anderson Cooper interview where she actually talked about what she wasn't supposed to talk about. So it was just some clip at the end where she said, you know, what I want to be able to talk about this just so I can clear my name, blah, blah, blah. Yeah. So that was like the little piece that they used.
It's amazing how, like, as far as podcasting, because I mentioned it to him too, I'm like, it's amazing because there's tons of people, or the people that we've had on the show in season 2, and of course, like you, we would have never had the opportunity to sit down and talk to you. Like, let's say, like, you know, we see each other at the gym, but I mean, when would we have ever been able to sit down and just like chat, you know?
And when was the last time that you sat down and talked to your friends and didn't? I mean, I know you have your phone in front of you, but you know what I'm saying? Like, weren't on
That's
your
very true.
phone.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
I mean, when was the
Having
last
a real conversation
and fucking made eye contact with somebody for like an hour?
Exactly.
We never do
Exactly.
that.
That's true.
It's crazy.
And that's why I don't know if your guests have the same feeling, but every single one of our guests, when they get out the chair, is like, "Ooh, that felt good."
Yeah.
So it was almost like a therapy session. It's like they're expressing themselves in ways that they never would have thought that they could.
Yeah.
You know, and especially like for them to do it on camera and on a microphone, that's pure bravery to me. Like, I love it. And every single one of our guests has progressed since the show. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, I love it. This whole podcast thing, we're kind of new to it, you know. The thing is, the reason why we got into it is because, you know, we had these crazy phone conversations and messages going back and forth. There was, you know, between me, him, and another buddy. Mm-hmm. So we thought about it. I was like, you know what? If other people can see what we say or hear what we say, imagine, like, we could just imagine what they would think of us. Or, you know, even just like some, because it's not all jokes, but, you know, with some intelligent conversations as well. Mm-hmm. So now, I mean, look at it now. You know, we created something and boom. And it was crazy because, like, I forgot how I found out. Oh, no. I actually saw your podcast, and then, like, I was looking, I'm like, okay, I've been there before. So when I met Ernie, I'm like, okay, yeah, I've been there before. I've been there once before just to check it out. Yeah,
because I met Ernie through Box and Burn.
Yeah,
when
exactly.
I did the Box
and
and
I
Burn
got connected
podcast.
through Steven, and he connected me with Ernie. So Box and Burn, goddamn.
I know.
I need to
You
be a
changed
part
your
of it,
lives.
man.
Seriously. And like, it's funny because, you know, a lot of my girlfriends now I met at Box and Burn. You know,
really?
like Eleni and
Yeah,
I just
yeah,
went out
yeah.
to dinner a couple nights ago, and Mary and Carly. And so, like, a couple of my, like, closest girlfriends now I met at Box and Burn.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
So let's say for a message for the women today, if you had anything, it doesn't have to relate to sex or anything, what message would you have for the women of today? This generation, the millennials.
I would say for the millennials.
Yeah.
Okay, well, put down your phone. I would say, I mean, if I was speaking specifically to the millennials, because this is something that I've seen in my own industry. You guys probably heard about, you know, the suicide of August Ames.
Yeah, I did.
Yeah, and August had been on my podcast, and she was one of my favorite models. And I loved her
what
dearly.
What exactly happened overall?
She, okay, so what happened was, and this is, you know, kind of based around social media, and I bring this up because of the millennials.
Absolutely.
So she said something on Twitter. She spends a lot of time on Twitter. I remember I even asked her in our interview, I was like, what are your hobbies? She's like, oh, you know, like I like to like hang out with my cat and like go on Twitter. I'm like, that's not a hobby.
You gotta understand, social media is not natural.
No,
It's not a
right? But
natural
she
thing.
spends a lot,
It's
and
really
she had a
not.
lot of followers. Like she had like 1.5 million followers.
Oh, she's
you
extremely
know?
attractive.
Very,
Extremely,
big, you know, very. And the thing is too is that these days, especially, you know, these girls working in the sex industry, social media is your direct contact with your fans.
Absolutely.
It's the way that you promote your brand. It's the way that you sell yourself. So it's kind of like this necessary evil. It's not just about like, you know, people liking you and feeling like you're going to get validation online, but it's also about your business. But the problem is that I think a lot of girls, especially young people now, have a hard time separating real life from online life.
Absolutely.
And they're two
Absolutely.
totally separate things. And I'm so fucking glad that I grew up without cell phones.
Me too.
And without the internet.
Oh, my God.
Because like these days, I find a lot of millennials have a hard time making eye contact because they're not used to sitting down and having a conversation with people.
Feel
They're
sick
used
without
to
their phone.
They're used to talking, texting, Snapchatting, like. I mean, there was this girl, I went to a friend's wedding, and she had a girl like 20 years old, one of the other bridesmaids. And like the only time that like she would like have a conversation with me was like through Snapchat. It was really weird.
Awkward.
Like she wouldn't
Yeah.
like look at me. It was very strange. So I think that people get kind of confused. And, you know, there's been studies have shown that anxiety and depression and suicide rates have skyrocketed.
Absolutely.
You know, since the internet
Absolutely.
has come along and social media. And I think that the strange thing about as much as the way that social media has connected us, it's also disconnected us because people
time.
don't
Big time.
relate to each other on a personal one-on-one basis anymore. They
Yeah.
they do it through this third-party device.
Absolutely.
And I think people are kind of losing touch with reality. So, you know, these kids, they go online and they post these pictures and, you know, they seek this validation, you know, from people, from strangers, people who don't
Yeah,
matter,
yeah.
people who
And when
you're
they don't
never
get it, it's-
gonna meet. Some
Yeah.
fucking kid in Russia,
Yeah.
some fat fucking Ohio who lives in his mom's basement, some guy with like sexual hangups in fucking India. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Whatever it is. And especially sex workers, they get this barrage of just negative feedback. And, August was subject to a lot of that. And she tweeted something about how she didn't want to work with this one male performer because he'd done some crossover work, which means he'd done gay porn. That's what we call a crossover performer.
Really quick, what is your opinion on that? Because I would understand that, right?
Yeah,
that's an opinion.
Yes, exactly. Now,
It's her choice.
yes, and as a woman in the adult industry, and as a woman who's performing in the adult industry, and who's ultimately, putting your body at risk.
Yes,
I mean,
yes.
you're putting your body at risk. You have the right to make those kinds of decisions. You have the right to say yes or no to who you want to work with for whatever the fucking reason is.
Exactly.
But a lot of people felt that the way that she approached it wasn't. It may not have been the most PC way, and they felt that it was like gay bashing, because she was like, I won't work with this guy because he's done crossover work because I care about my body. And then other people were like, well, that's not fair because even if they've done gay porn before, they get tested before they do straight porn work. They get tested for STDs, but... then one says, well, you don't know what they're doing in their personal life in that testing. You only test every 2 weeks. Something could happen in that 2-week window. And, anal sex, which is the way that most gay people have sex, is just naturally, it's easier to transmit diseases because the walls of the anus are much thinner than the walls of the vagina.
True.
So it's much easier to tear. It's much easier to just transmit bodily fluids. That's just a scientific fact. Mm-hmm. So, some people feel that there is a greater risk of the transmission of STDs among people who also, engage in gay activity.
And it's a fact because there's previous incidents that have occurred, correct?
Yeah, I mean, it's just one of those things. Statistically, it's just more likely to pass STDs through anal sex.
True.
So, so some women just feel that they would prefer not to because it's safer to avoid that, which is fine. But anyway, so all these people piled on her and. She had some very angry comments and some really unkind things that people said to her. And it was just like constant. And I think, it was just kind of too much for her. And it really got to her. And she hung herself.
That's got to be difficult.
It was really awful.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what I'm saying is that, August, and it was such a huge blow to the industry because, I've seen other porn stars die. She's not the first one, and it's always like incredibly sad.
Yeah, absolutely.
But August was like a light. I mean, people really loved her. There wasn't a soul who worked with August who didn't love August. Everybody loved August. She had this infectious personality. She was so sweet. She was funny. She was always really positive. She was just somebody that everybody adored. And she just seemed so happy all the time, She gave so when she killed herself, it was such a shock because nobody knew that she was hurting that badly, and nobody knew that she was in that kind of place. And just to see the tragedy of such a beautiful young girl, to see her life ended so soon and so tragically and so unnecessarily.
Unnecessarily, that's the right word.
So sad, but I mean, a lot of that is. And that's just one of those ways in which you see that like social media is this double-edged sword, and it can be a bad place for some people,
It's a bad place.
My advice would be to young people is just take all of that with a grain of salt. Take a break from social media. Put your phone down. Go take a hike. Go hang out with your family. Go hang out with your friends. Remember it's the people that you see in day-to-day life, and that that know you, that love you. Those are the people whose opinions matter, not some fucktard that you'll never meet. So
and those opinions are more valued than the actual ones that
exactly.
Are,
and the problem with the internet is that it's given a platform for any idiot to be able to see whatever he wants without accountability.
True.
Because there's this anonymity with the internet, and if you don't, have to be accountable for what you say, people will say the most horrible things.
Anything.
Yeah.
Say what is it? Freedom of speech.
Yeah.
Whatever that is.
But some people are just trying to get a rise out of you. A lot of these guys, like, they just want attention. They just want the response from the girl because they know that if they send him a comment, say, "Oh my God, you're so beautiful. You're my favorite porn star," it's unlikely the girl's going to respond.
Very true.
But if they write, like, "You stupid whore, like, God hates you, you should die," the girl might respond.
It's so funny how those people are the ones who admire you.
Yes.
They admire you so much that they, in a sense, kind of envy you. And then that's where the attacks come.
Yes.
And there's so many people who are like that. There's a lot of sick people out there. So
the way that people treat you is a lot more indicative of how they feel about themselves than how they actually feel about you.
That's very, very true.
So.
All right, guys, this has been another episode of Great Fire Podcast with your host, TrayBate, a.k.a. TrayBate Knows Boxing.
And I am Willie Mack.
And our very, very special guest, celebrity, and legend, Holly Randall. All right, guys, we'll see you guys on the next episode.
Thank you.